Picture a highway that goes nowhere special, not nowhere beautiful, nowhere special. A strip of cracked asphalt cutting through flat Ohio farmland, past a Sunoco station with one pump that works and one that doesn't, past a used car lot with American flags strung between the antennas, past fields that used to be something and are slowly becoming something else. Now put a diner on that highway, not a romantic diner. Not the kind from the magazines where the milkshakes are thick and the waitresses wink at you and everyone leaves with full stomachs and something to look forward to. Not the diner with the gleaming chrome stools and the gleaming chrome future and the gleaming chrome version of America that the television keeps promising. Put a real diner there. A diner where the grease trap hasn't been properly cleaned since Eisenhower's first term. A diner where the neon sign in the window, the one that says, "Open 24 hours," flickers off and on at 2 a.m. because nobody can afford to fix it, and the buzzing it makes sounds like a dying insect, steady and small and impossible to stop hearing once you've started. A diner where the coffee is always hot because the pot never fully empties, where the pie really is homemade because homemade is cheaper than ordering from the Millhaven Bakery 2 miles up the road, and the crust comes out tough some days, and nobody says so because nobody who eats here has the luxury of being picky about crust. A diner where the bathroom door lock has been broken since 1953 and is held shut with a piece of bent wire that you have to explain to every new customer. Personally, every single time. That's where we're going tonight. Not as customers sliding into a booth and ordering the blue plate special. Not as travellers stopping to stretch their legs and have a slice of that pie and use that bathroom. We're living it, working it, breathing it. We're the ones in the back, elbow deep in grey dishwater, moving through the kitchen at a half run because there are 30 people waiting on food and 2 people cooking, and somebody just said the words that make your stomach drop every single time. We're out of coffee cups again. It is 1957, the United States of America, the greatest, wealthiest, most optimistic country in the history of the world, or so the television says. Tail fins on every car. 2-car garages and split-level houses and television sets and refrigerators full of things that have never existed before. Velveeta, Tang, frozen TV dinners that you heat in the oven and eat off a tray without talking to each other and call it modern living. Progress, prosperity, the American dream, approximately 600 feet from where you're standing right now, visible through the kitchen, pass-through window, if you lean at exactly the right angle and squint past the grease on the glass. We're on Route 9 in Millhaven, Ohio. The diner is called the Blue Star. The year is 1957. Your name is Eddie Kowalski. You are 14 years old. Your hands smell like dish soap and bacon fat, and you did not choose any of this. So, I make these history stories, and I genuinely have no idea if anyone actually falls asleep to them, or if you're all just people who like hearing about difficult things that happen to other people far enough away in time that it feels safe. Either way, get comfortable. Close your eyes if you want. Here we go. The Blue Star Diner smells like this. Coffee first. Always coffee. The Folgers has been going since 4:30 this morning, when your mother came downstairs in the dark and lit the burner and started the first pot of the day. There will be 30 more pots before the last customer leaves tonight. By now, by 14 years of morning starting like this, the coffee smell has been absorbed so deeply into the walls, the floors, the ceiling tiles, the very wood of the building, that you could tear the whole structure down to bare studs, and it would still smell like coffee. It is not the smell of your house. It is the smell of your life. Underneath the coffee, grease. Not fresh grease, though there's that too, popping and hissing on the griddle where Ray is working the morning shift, laying down strips of bacon with the efficient calm of a man who has done this 10,000 times. Old grease, the kind that's worked itself into the floor seams, into the weave of your apron, into the skin of your hands and the underside of your fingernails in a way that soap cannot fully reach. The kind you carry to school with you every morning, tucked into your paws, and you know that Danny Hargrove can smell it when you sit down at the desk next to him in homeroom, because he moves 6 inches to the left without looking at you every single morning. 6 inches to the left without looking, and you haven't said anything about it because what would you say? Under the grease, cigarette smoke. Your mother doesn't smoke, but Ray does, and 4 of the 6 regular waitresses do, and probably 80% of the customers who come through that door do. They smoke in the booths. They smoke at the counter. A trucker came in last February and smoked a cigar, right there at the counter, and when your mother asked him very politely not to, he looked at her the way men look at women who ask them things, and then smoked it halfway down and left it in his coffee saucer when he left. The smoke hangs in a permanent yellow haze near the ceiling, caught in the light from the overhead fixtures that your mother says she's going to replace this year, and said the same thing last year and the year before. Under the cigarettes, something sweet and slightly wrong. The syrup dispenser by the coffee station, which your job it is to clean every night, and which you do clean every night, but which still somehow manages to accumulate a sticky residue that attracts flies in summer, and a specific kind of sadness in winter. The sugar canisters, their pore holes crusted. The glass pie case, which smells like every pie that has ever been in it, all of them layered on top of each other in the glass the way years layer on a wall. And underneath all of it, the thing you notice least because it's most constant. People. The smell of people. Working people. Tired people. People who've been driving for 4 hours with the windows mostly up because of the weather and who need a bathroom and a cup of something hot. The factory workers from Consolidated Metals who eat lunch here every day, who smell of metal shavings and machine oil and a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from doing the same motion with your hands and your arms for 8 hours straight. The regulars who've been coming here long enough that their particular smell is part of the diner's smell. Walt, who always takes the second stool from the left and smells of Old Spice, and the specific machine oil of a 1947 Buick that has never quite been fixed. Dorothy Price, who sits in the back corner booth every Tuesday and Thursday and smells of lavender and something floral, and also, underneath that, the wool of her coat, which hasn't been dry cleaned since her husband died. These people, you know their smell before you know their order, and you know their order before you know their names. Welcome to the Blue Star Diner, Route 9, Millhaven, Ohio, June 1957. Before any of this makes sense, I need to tell you something about how you got here. The diner was built in 1938. A man named Gerald Hoffman built it, poured the concrete pad himself with his brother-in-law, framed the walls over a long August weekend, hired a plumber and an electrician whose work was technically legal and practically terrifying. Gerald ran it for 4 years, through the Depression tail end and into the war, and then his son got called up in 1942, and Gerald decided he was done. Your parents bought it for $4,000 that same year. $4,000 in 1942 was all of your father's discharge money. A busted-up knee from basic training had sent him home before he ever shipped out, which was its own particular kind of wound, plus the $3,000 your grandmother had carried across from Krakow in 1908, sewn into the hem of her winter coat, saving it in a coffee can in her kitchen for 34 years for a purpose she could never exactly name, but knew she would recognize when it came. This was it. A diner in southern Ohio. Your parents signed the papers on a Thursday. Your mother always said your father looked like a man who had just done the bravest thing he'd ever done. Your father always said your mother looked like a woman who wasn't sure bravery and wisdom were the same thing. They were both right. The diner, your father believed, would be the thing that proved something. He could not always articulate exactly what. Something about effort and America and the idea that if you worked hard enough and wanted something badly enough, you were owed a return, that the universe kept careful accounts, that a Kowalski, a good hard-working Kowalski, could build something real in this country. The diner had different opinions. The pipes knocked from the first week. The walk-in cooler ran warm on the left side and freezing on the right, which meant every piece of produce had to be placed with precision and checked every morning or it would be rotten by Tuesday. The counter listed 2 degrees east, which you discovered the hard way the first week when 3 coffee cups migrated off the edge in a single afternoon. The griddle had a hot spot near the left rear corner that burned everything put there, and that Ray eventually learned to route around, turning the cooking of every item into a small choreography of avoidance. Your father put Kowalski's on the sign when they opened. He painted the letters himself on a Sunday, with the particular focused happiness of a man doing something he has decided will last. The sign came down in 1949 for a road project, and when it went back up, it said, Blue Star Diner in yellow on blue. Your mother had thought about it for the whole month the sign was down, and had decided she didn't want the family name on the front of a building where strangers used the bathroom. We sell food, she said, not our name. Your father looked at her for a long moment. It's the same thing, he said. He was wrong, she was right. But she let him think about it for 3 years before he agreed, which was very much the way they worked. It's been the Blue Star ever since. Your father left on a Tuesday in August 1955. Not dramatically, not mid-argument, not in the middle of the night with nothing but shadows. He packed 2 suitcases, the good brown one and the old grey one, while you were at school and your mother was doing the lunch rush, and he left a note on the kitchen table that said he was going to Cincinnati to look at a business opportunity and that he would call. He called 3 days later from Dayton. He called twice more from someplace he didn't name. And then in September, your mother got a letter from a lawyer in Cleveland, and that was that. Your father, it turned out, believed in effort and certainty with one important asterisk. He believed in them the way you believe in things you want to be true, which is different from the way things actually work, which left your mother with the Blue Star, which left you behind the counter. You were 12 that first summer, just 12, small enough that you had to stand on a milk crate to reach the deep sink, the one where you ran the dishwater so hot it steamed, and your hands went red within 20 minutes and stayed red for hours after. Your mother had stood behind you the first day and shown you the system. Glasses first, then cups, then plates, then pots. Always glasses first, because they were the most likely to be seen by customers. Always hot water, because bacteria were not your friend. always dry completely, or the water spots would get you a look from your mother that was worse than anything she could say out loud. You stood on that milk crate and washed dishes for 8 hours a day that summer, and your hands were always wet and wrinkled and occasionally cracked along the knuckles, which your mother would pack with petroleum jelly at night before you went to bed, rubbing it in with her thumbs in small circles, not saying much, which was how she showed most things. By the end of August, you knew the weight of a bus tray loaded with dirty plates. You knew which customers left their coffee cups on the edge of the table versus the centre. You knew that the breakfast rush hit hardest between 7 and 9, and then there was a 30-minute gap around 10 that was the closest thing to peace the diner ever had. And you learned to eat your own breakfast in that gap, standing up at the pass-through window. That was 2 years ago. Now you don't need the milk crate. Your hands are rough where the dishes wear against them. There are 2 small scars on your right forearm where grease has jumped up off the griddle. Small, pale ovals of skin slightly different from the rest. And your fingernails have made their peace with being never quite clean. You scrub them every night before school in the morning. By lunch, they've remembered where they come from. Some fights you keep fighting. Some you learn to file away. The Blue Star opens at 5:30 in the morning 6 days a week. Sundays it opens at 6 as a concession to God, who your mother believes in, and also to the fact that Sunday mornings are slow until after church, which doesn't start until 9. 5:30 means your mother is up at 4:15. This is not a complaint you will ever hear her make. She mentions it sometimes, the way facts get mentioned simply, as part of a list of facts. 4:15, out of bed. Wash face, put on uniform. The blue and white one, the one she bought 3 of in 1953, so she'd always have a clean one. Come downstairs, unlock the back door, start the coffee, unlock the front door. Begin. The woman who arrives at 4:15 is named Helen Kowalski, and she is 41 years old, and she's been running this diner for 15 years, and she is the most competent person you have ever seen in any context, and she would not describe herself that way. She would describe herself as a person who has a lot to do. She's 5'4". Her hair is dark and going grey at the temples, which she pins back under the small paper hat that is part of the uniform, and which you have never seen her complain about, even though it looks like it's designed to be slightly uncomfortable. Her hands are rough in the same places yours are. Her knuckles are slightly swollen, which the doctor says is from years of the same repeated motions, and which she ignores. Her feet hurt. She mentioned this once, in 1956, and then did not mention it again, apparently having decided that the information was not actionable. She runs the Blue Star with the focused efficiency of someone who knows that there is no margin for waste and no backup plan. There is only this. The diner opens at 5:30, the coffee is ready at 5:20, the prep is done by 5:15, and if it isn't, she works faster. That's the whole philosophy. Work faster, plan better, waste less, smile at the customers, even the difficult ones, especially the difficult ones, because difficult customers are still paying customers, and paying customers are what stand between you and the bank calling. Your mother smiles at a lot of difficult customers. You've watched her do it for 2 years. You've watched her smile at men who leave 20-cent tips on $2 checks. You've watched her smile at the regional sales rep for Kendall Motor Oil who comes in every other Wednesday and has been asking her to dinner since approximately 1953 and cannot seem to process the word no. You've watched her smile at the health inspector, Mr. Fink, who comes every 6 months and finds something different to cite every time. A gap in the countertop caulking, a light bulb out in the storage room, some obscure regulation about the distance between the hand-washing sink and the food prep area. And you've seen the exact cost of that smile in the muscles of her jaw, the slight tightness around her eyes, the way she sets her coffee cup down more precisely than usual after he leaves. She never stops smiling until the door closes behind him. Then she sits down on the nearest stool, just for a moment, and the smile is gone entirely, and she looks like what she is. A 41-year-old woman who is very tired and has a great deal left to do. You've never asked her how she does it. You think the answer would frighten you. Ray Dempsey has been cooking at the Blue Star since 1951. He's 47 years old and he is 6'2", and he weighs about 230, and he has forearms the size of your thighs, which is relevant because short-order cooking is a physical job in ways that nobody from the outside would guess. The griddle is 4 feet wide. From the left end to the right end, constantly all morning, Ray moves food. Bacon strips from the cold drawer, laid precise and parallel. Eggs cracked one-handed into the ring moulds. Sunny side up, over easy, over hard, scrambled. He doesn't forget an order, ever, which is remarkable because in the breakfast rush he's running 6, 8, 10 orders simultaneously, and each order has its own timing, its own particular customer somewhere out front who will notice if the yolk is wrong. Ray does not use a notebook. He does not write things down. He holds the orders in his head the way some people hold music, complete, arranged, playing without effort. 2 over easy, bacon, wheat, your mother will call through the pass. Ray will already be moving, already has the eggs going. Hash browns, light on them, got it. That's the whole conversation. 6 words. That's enough because Ray has been doing this for 6 years with your mother and they have developed the kind of working shorthand that some marriages never achieve. Ray smokes while he cooks, Marlboro Reds, which he keeps on the shelf above the range, in a place carefully calculated to be above the steam and grease splatter, but reachable without turning around. He lights one at the beginning of each shift and replaces it as needed, and there is something almost meditative about the way he manages it. Cigarette in his left hand, spatula in his right, both moving in their own rhythms, separate and simultaneous. Your mother does not approve of this, and has said so on approximately 400 occasions since 1951. Ray's response is always a slight sideways tilt of his head that says, "I hear you, and I'm still going to do it simultaneously without actually saying either." He's still employed. Your mother can't afford to be too principled about it. In the summer of 1957, Ray is the one who teaches you the griddle, not with explanation, not with a lesson. He puts you next to him on a slow Tuesday afternoon and goes quiet, and you watch his hands and gradually, over weeks, over the specific accumulation of watching, you learn things. You learn that you always lay the bacon away from yourself so the grease runs down and not toward you. You learn the sound that eggs make when the pan is at the right temperature versus when it's too hot. A clean, fast sizzle versus an angry spit. You learn that the griddle temperature drops every time you lay something cold on it, and drops further with every additional thing, and that managing that drop, keeping it steady, keeping it consistent, is not a skill but a feel. The kind of thing that lives in the backs of your hands rather than in your head. You burnt that, Ray says, not unkindly, on your 3rd day. I know. Do you know why? You look at the eggs. Pan was too hot. No. He flips his spatula. You were thinking about whether you were doing it right instead of listening to whether you were doing it right. There's a difference. He sets 2 perfect over-easy eggs on a plate in a single smooth motion and slides them to the pass. Stop thinking. Start listening. This is the most instructive thing anyone has said to you in either of the 2 years you've been here. It applies to almost everything about the diner. Stop thinking about it. Start listening to it. The creak of the 3rd step on the back staircase means your mother is coming down early, which means there's a problem. The specific hesitation of the front door, the slight catching before it opens, means the weather has changed and rain is coming, which means more customers, which means you need to check the coffee level now. The sound the dishwasher makes in its rinse cycle, a low groan that shouldn't be there. That means the hot water heater is running low, which means you have about 20 minutes before you lose good pressure and you need to get ahead of the pile. The diner talks constantly. You just have to learn its language. Patty Murrow is one of your mother's 3 full-time waitresses, and she is the one who runs the room. Not in any official capacity. Your mother runs the room in any official capacity. But Patty Murrow has been here since 1948. She knows every regular by first name. She knows which table has a wobble and which booth has a seat that's coming loose on the left side. She knows that the Hendersons from Consolidated Metals always want more napkins before they ask, and she knows how to handle the difficult customers in a way that keeps everyone at roughly the same temperature. Patty is 35 and has been divorced once, which in Millhaven in 1957 is a fact people know and quietly file away, which is one of the reasons Patty has a way of looking at you that makes clear she is done being filed away quietly. Thank you. She's not pretty in the easy magazine way, but she is the kind of person that rooms feel different when she leaves them, which is its own kind of thing. She wears the uniform, blue and white, same as your mother's, and she wears it like she decided to and not like someone made her, which is a distinction you can see even if you can't entirely explain it. She has dark red hair pinned up under the hat, and earrings she wears anyway. Small silver ones, even though earrings are not technically part of the uniform. Your mother has never said anything about the earrings. You think this is a negotiated piece. Patty is the one who teaches you the front of house mechanics that Ray never thinks to mention, because he's never out of the kitchen. Move like you have somewhere to go, she tells you. Your first week on the floor as a busboy. Not like you're hurrying. Like you already know where you're going, and you just happen to be in motion. What's the difference? Hurrying makes customers nervous. Moving with purpose makes them feel like things are under control. She refills a coffee cup while she's talking without looking at it, the pot arcing perfectly, never overfilling. Which is the feeling you want them to have, even when things are not under control. Are things ever under control? Patty gives you a look. No. But they can feel like they are. That's the whole job. You think about this later, washing dishes, and you realise she's describing something broader than the diner. She's describing something about how most institutions work. The appearance of control maintained in service of the feeling of safety, so that people can sit down and eat their eggs, and not have to think about all the things that are held together by nothing more than habit and effort, and one woman who gets up at 4:15 every morning. You are 14, and you are learning things at the Blue Star that you will not be able to name for years. Let me tell you about the customers, not the transient ones, the travellers, the truckers, the passing through people who stop for gas and a meal and leave and you never see again. Those people are important too. They pay the electricity bill, but they're not the ones who give the Blue Star its character. The regulars are the character. Walt Gruber, second stool from the left, every single morning at 6:15. Retired now. He worked 30 years at the textile mill in Covington, 2 towns over, before it closed in 1953. And the morning coffee at the Blue Star is now the primary reason he gets dressed. He orders the same thing every day. Coffee black, 2 eggs scrambled, wheat toast no butter. He reads the Millhaven Gazette from front to back, methodically, folding each page with the same care, and then he sets it at the end of the counter where whoever wants it can take it. He has been doing this for 9 years. You know this because Walt told you himself on one of the slow Tuesday mornings when you were wiping down the counter and he was finishing the sports section and there was a natural lull. 9 years. He figured it out once. 1,000 Tuesdays? No, more. He did the math and it came to about 3,000 mornings at the Blue Star, roughly, if you counted the days he'd missed, which weren't many. Doesn't it get boring, you said? The same thing every day? Walt looked at you over the rim of his coffee cup with the expression of a man who has thought about something for a long time and reached an answer you haven't reached yet. The thing stays the same, he said. But you don't. You're different every morning, even when you think you're not. A pause. The coffee's the same. That helps. You think about that sometimes. On mornings when everything feels exactly like every other morning, which is most mornings. Dorothy Price, back corner booth, Tuesdays and Thursdays. She was married for 26 years to a man named Gerald Price, who owned the hardware store on Main Street, and Gerald died of a heart attack in 1954 while he was climbing a ladder to restock the top shelf, which is the kind of thing that happens and that you are never prepared for. Dorothy comes to the Blue Star now on Tuesdays and Thursdays because Gerald used to eat lunch here on those days, and she found she couldn't stop the habit without also stopping something she wasn't ready to stop. She orders a bowl of soup and a grilled cheese sandwich and a slice of whatever pie is freshest. She stays for 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. She tips exactly 20%, calculated precisely to the penny, which is what Gerald would have done, because Gerald was precise about that kind of thing. One time, in the spring of your first year, you cleared her table after she left and found a small photograph under the edge of her saucer. A man, probably 50, standing in front of a store, squinting into summer light. You brought it to your mother, who knew immediately. She put it in an envelope and drove it to Dorothy's house on her lunch break. When Dorothy came back the following Tuesday, she held your mother's hand for a moment, both of them standing by the back booth, neither of them saying anything. Then Dorothy sat down and ordered her soup and her grilled cheese and her pie. Some things don't need words. There are others. The Henderson brothers from Consolidated Metals, who eat lunch together every day and who have clearly had the same argument in installments for years, about a piece of land, about their father's estate, about something, and who always leave together anyway. The Pearson family who comes in for Sunday breakfast after church, all 5 of them, the kids so clean they look like photographs of themselves, and who are perfectly pleasant and who your mother likes, and who consistently leave a 10% tip which drives Patty quietly insane. The young woman, no older than 20, who comes in alone on Friday evenings and eats at the counter, and never talks to anyone and always orders coffee and the daily special, and looks out the window at the highway for most of the meal, watching the cars go by, which you have decided means she is thinking about leaving, and hasn't decided yet whether to do it. Every diner has someone thinking about leaving. The highway. You need to understand the highway because the highway is the thing the Blue Star exists because of and around and despite. Route 9, 1957. Not Route 66. That's the romantic highway, the one in the song, the one that means something. Route 9 is not that. Route 9 goes from somewhere to somewhere else, and nobody writes songs about it. It carries trucks and salesmen and families on their way to somewhere else, and it passes through Mill Haven, Ohio, like water passes through a pipe, without caring, without slowing down, without stopping unless it has to. The diner catches a fraction of the cars that pass, the ones that need gas and see the sign, the ones whose drivers are hungry and tired and willing to eat where they can see the parking lot from the road and make sure the other cars look normal, the ones who have been driving since dawn and it's now 11 in the morning and their children are asking for the third time whether they're almost there, and the answer is no, not even close. Through the window above the counter, the long window that faces the highway, you can watch them come and go all day. This is not a small thing, the window. When you're on dish and the rhythm gets automatic, pick up, spray, rack, load, unload, stack. Your mind floats, and where it floats is that window, watching the cars. The new Chevrolets, long and low with those fins that look like the car is already moving when it's sitting still. The old Ford pickups with the wood slat beds. The big trucks, the semis, with their diesel groan that you can feel in your chest before you hear them. The occasional station wagon with luggage piled on the roof rack, a family in transit. The kids' faces visible in the back window, watching the same highway you're watching from the other side. Every car that passes is going somewhere. You're 14 years old and you've been to Columbus once, for a school trip in the 6th grade, and that is the furthest from Millhaven you have ever been, and you have thought about this many times while watching the highway, and you have not said it out loud to anyone, because it's the kind of thought that sounds like complaining, and in your family, in your life, there's not much patience for complaining. Things are what they are. You work with what you have. This is the inheritance your grandmother sewed into a coat hem and your mother gets up at 4:15 every morning to honour. But the window is there, and the highway is there, and the cars keep passing. A man in a 56 Buick, you can tell the make at a distance now, you couldn't a year ago, slows and turns into the lot. He parks crooked 2 wheels over the line. He's been driving a long time. His shirt is wrinkled and his hat is slightly askew, and he moves with the stiffness of someone who has been folded into a car seat for too many hours. He pushes through the front door and the bell above it jangles, and Patty has already turned toward him before he's fully inside, because Patty is always already turning toward the next person. Counter or booth? Counter's fine. He sits on the 4th stool and picks up the menu, even though you know he's going to order the blue plate special, because everyone who looks like he looks orders the blue plate special. He is one of the hundreds of people, hundreds of cars, hundreds of small transactions that add up to the electricity bill, the rent on the gas range, the check to the bread supplier on Fridays. He orders the blue plate. He eats it in 17 minutes. He leaves a 50-cent tip, which is good, which is more than most of the long-haul people leave. And he goes back to his Buick and folds himself back in and merges onto Route 9, and he is gone, and you will never see him again, and he will not remember this diner next week. That is the other half of the business. The ones you see once and never again. The ones for whom the Blue Star is just a place on a road, a fuel stop, a necessity. The ones for whom you put just as much effort into the food and the coffee and the clean counter and the prompt service, and for whom none of it sticks. They're already thinking about the next 100 miles. Your mother knows this. She has always known this. You feed everyone the same, she told you early on. You don't know which ones will come back. This seemed practical at the time. Now you think it's something else. Something about how care doesn't require return to be worth it. Something about how the fact that someone won't remember doesn't change whether you did it right. You're 14. You're still working out whether this is wisdom or whether it's just the story you tell yourself to make the math acceptable. The morning rush hits like weather. There is no single moment when it begins. 1 minute you're restocking the sugar caddies and there's Walt and 2 other men at the counter and it's quiet. And then, not gradually, not with warning, there are 14 people and then 20, and then the booths are all full, and there are people standing by the door waiting for a seat, and Patty and Linda are both moving at full speed, and Ray has 4 things on the grill, and your mother is at the register, and the pass-through bell is ringing and ringing and ringing. The bell is attached to the order window between the kitchen and the front. When food is ready, Ray hits it. 1 time means come get it. He hits it a lot during the rush. You've started hearing it in your sleep. Your job in the morning rush, if you're on the floor and not the dish, is the bus station. Every table that empties, you're there before the last person has fully stood up. Tray in hand, everything cleared and stacked in under 30 seconds. Back to the service station, unloaded, tray wiped, back to the floor. You don't stop moving. You've learned what Patty meant, not hurrying, but already in motion, already going, already knowing where the next table is before the previous one is done. The kitchen during the rush is a specific kind of controlled chaos that has its own beauty, if you're not in the middle of it. Ray at the grill, all 4 feet of it working, bacon here, home fries there, eggs in the ring, moulds in 3 different stages of doneness, toast in the 4-slot toaster that takes 45 seconds and holds the whole rhythm hostage if the timing slips. He moves left to right and back again, never wasted motion, spatula in one hand and coffee in the other. His own coffee, not for customers, a large mug that stays on the shelf above the range and which Patty refills when she walks past without being asked, which is one of the small negotiations that keep the kitchen from fracturing. Your mother works the register, and the coffee urns and the plates coming down from the pass-through, and she has eyes in the back of her head. You have tested this theory many times and it remains true. She will be facing the register, and she will say, Eddie, table 4, and table 4 will have just put their cups at the edge of the table, which is the universal signal that they need refills, and she had her back to them. You ask her once how she does it, she gives you a look. Same way you'll learn to do it. You stop looking and start knowing. This is not a satisfying answer. It turns out to be the right one. By 7:30 the rush is at its peak and the diner is full. Every booth, every stool, 3 people standing by the door. And you're moving in the automatic gear that the body discovers when the mind gets out of the way. And this is the thing about the Blue Star at peak service, the thing you can't understand from the outside and can't explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. It hums, not metaphorically. The building hums, the grill hums, the dishwasher hums through its cycle, the coffee urns hum, the ceiling fans hum. The chatter of 30 people talking simultaneously creates a sound that is not individual voices but a collective noise, a social sound, the sound of people being alive together in a small space, which is ancient and unglamorous, and somehow exactly what the word warmth means before you learn to associate it with nicer things. The Blue Star, at peak service on a Tuesday morning in June, is a warm place. Greasy, loud, slightly overcrowded. The coffee not great, the eggs honest but not extraordinary, the pie slightly tough in the crust. The vinyl on the stools cracked, the ceiling tiles stained, the window in the ladies' room painted shut since 1952 in violation of the fire code, which your mother has been meaning to address and hasn't. Still warm, still something. You carry a bus tray full of dirty plates back to the dish station, and you look through the pass-through window at the room, at the booths, the counter, the people, and you feel something that you don't have a word for yet. Something between pride and grief. Something about how much effort goes into a thing like this, and how most of that effort is invisible, and how the people out there eating their eggs don't think about any of it, and how that's fine. That's how it should work, but also how you are very aware of everything that is invisible, and it sits in your chest in a specific way. You're 14 years old, and you are learning how most of the world is built. By the people in the back. By the people who got up at 4:15. By the people who smile at the difficult customers. Now get the bus tray and go. It's the third week of June when Roy Watkins comes in. You know Roy Watkins the way you know most of the men who stop at the Blue Star regularly without being regulars. By type before by name. Travelling salesman. You can tell by the way they carry themselves, slightly forward-leaning, already preparing for the pitch. Eyes doing a quick assessment of the room the moment they walk through the door. Roy sells farm equipment parts out of Dayton, and he comes through Millhaven on his circuit every 2 weeks, Wednesday afternoons, and he always takes the far corner booth and nurses a piece of pie for 45 minutes while he writes in a ledger. Roy is not a bad man. He's a man shaped by what he sells for a living, which is to say he is very comfortable talking and slightly less comfortable listening, and he has a way of making a statement where the last sentence goes up at the end like a question, seeking confirmation, which after a while makes you feel like you're constantly being asked to agree to something. He tips okay, he's friendly. The Wednesday in question, June 19th, 1957, you remember the date because of what happened after. Roy comes in at the usual time, 2:30, and takes his usual booth, and Patty brings him his usual coffee, and he orders the lemon meringue, and everything is exactly as expected. Except that he's with someone. The someone is maybe 30, dressed better than Roy, with the kind of haircut that cost money, and the kind of watch that cost more money, and he looks at the Blue Star with the specific expression of a man deciding whether a place is beneath him, and concluding that it is, but continuing anyway because Roy said the pie was good. His name, you learn later, is Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell. He works for some company whose name Roy keeps saying with a particular reverence. The way people say the names of places they want to be associated with. You bust the table next to them early in their visit, which means you're close enough to hear without trying to hear. Roy is making his pitch. You've heard versions of this pitch from other salesmen. The circular, charming progress from small talk to the thing he actually wants. Each observation angled slightly toward it. He talks about the drive from Dayton, which connects to the state of the roads, which connects to the difficulty of moving product, which connects to distribution efficiencies, which connects to whatever he's actually selling, which in this case seems to be a regional distribution contract of some kind. Caldwell listens with the patience of a man who has heard this kind of pitch many times and is evaluating it while appearing to simply eat pie. This is not the part that matters. What matters is the moment, 20 minutes into their conversation, when Caldwell looks up from his pie and glances around the diner, at the room, the customers, the worn ceiling, the cracked counter stools, with an expression that is not quite contempt, and is not quite pity, and is not quite either of those things, but is something adjacent to both. "Is this where you usually do business?" Caldwell says. Roy laughs. He laughs with the specific brightness of a man covering something. "The best pie in Millhaven," he says. "Can't beat that." Caldwell makes a small sound. Not quite agreement. He picks up his fork and takes another small bite of lemon meringue and looks back out the window at Route 9. And you can see him calculating something. And whatever he's calculating, you are part of the inputs. The diner is part of the inputs. The cracked stools and the stained ceiling tiles and the buzzing neon sign visible through the window are all going into the calculation. You carry your bus tray back to the station. You don't think about it until much later. And what you think, when you think about it, is this. Caldwell spent 12 minutes here and decided something about Roy based on this place. Based on the kind of place Roy chose to hold his meetings. Based on whether the Blue Star was the kind of place a serious person would bring an important contact. And what you decide when you think about it is that Caldwell is wrong. Not about the ceiling tiles. Those need replacing, your mother knows it. But about the math of what a place like this means. The Blue Star is not aspirational. It is not intended to impress. It is intended to be exactly what it is. A place where you can get food and coffee and a clean table and be left alone or talked to depending on what you need. That's not a small thing. That is actually the whole thing. Caldwell does not buy whatever Roy is selling. Roy comes back 2 weeks later, same booth, same time, alone this time, and he eats his pie and writes in his ledger without talking to anyone. And Patty gives him an extra large slice without charging for it, which is not the kind of thing the Blue Star can afford, but which Patty does anyway, because she has her own calculations, and this is one of the inputs. Roy looks at the slice for a moment when it arrives. "Thanks," he says. Patty shrugs. Pie was going to be day old tomorrow anyway. This is almost certainly not true. Roy knows it, and Patty knows Roy knows it, and neither of them says so, and that's the whole transaction, and also somehow the whole story. Let me tell you about the dish station, because you will spend more time here than anywhere else this summer, and because the dish station is where you learn the city's metabolism, not the city's face, but its engine. The dish station is at the back of the kitchen against the left wall. It consists of the deep sink, which is 24 inches wide and deep enough that it catches water up to your mid-forearm. The spray nozzle, which runs on a rubber hose and which delivers hot water at a pressure that can remove most of the dried egg from a plate in 2 passes. The commercial dishwasher, which is a chest-high stainless steel unit that does a full cycle in 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and which exhales a cloud of hot steam every time you open it that will, over the course of a long shift, keep you sweating for hours after you've stopped moving. Your routine at the dish station: rack the glasses first. They go on the upper trays. Tip them at a 45-degree angle so water doesn't pool in the bottoms, which will leave spots, which will get you a look from your mother that is 2 degrees colder than the walk-in cooler. Plates go in the lower trays, scraped clean first. There is a trash can to the right of the sink for this purpose, and you will scrape many things into it today that you do not think about. Someone has left 4/5 of a plate of home fries. Someone else has eaten around the toast crusts methodically, leaving them stacked in a small pile at the edge of the plate like a cairn. Someone has rearranged their bacon strips in a way that looks deliberate but communicates nothing. The pots come last, because they're the worst. The pots take scrubbing, real scrubbing, with the steel wool pad in both hands and the weight of your whole upper body leaning in. Raised pots accumulate a particular layer of caramelized grease along the bottom edges that does not respond to anything gentle. You have to go at it, and your hands will ache by the end, and the ache will be in the specific places the scrubbing pad contacts, which after 2 summers of this are slightly calloused in a way that is distinct from the dishwashing calluses. You have dishwashing calluses and scrubbing calluses and griddle calluses. Your hands are a map of the work. The temperature at the dish station in June is approximately 1,000 years. The dishwasher runs hot. The water runs hot. The kitchen behind you is already warm from the grill, and by 10 in the morning the combination produces a specific microclimate against the left wall that is somewhere between sauna and punishment. You sweat through your shirt before 9. By noon it has dried and re-wetted twice, which produces a specific smell that you have categorized as dish station, summer, morning shift. You drink water constantly. There is a glass on the shelf above the sink that you refill every 30 minutes from the tap, and the water is lukewarm because everything is lukewarm or hotter here, and you drink it anyway because your body requires it and because the alternative is worse. One day in mid-July, you run out of clean plates during the lunch rush. This is not your fault. The timing is bad. A bus of 30 people came through unexpected. Your mother had to pull you to bus tables for 20 minutes, which put the dishes behind. But the outcome is the same. Patty comes through the pass-through door with a face that says situation, and she says very calmly, "We're going to be short on plates in about 4 minutes." 4 minutes is nothing. 4 minutes is 1 dishwasher cycle. You load the machine, hit the cycle, and then stand in front of it for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, doing absolutely nothing useful, just watching it run. Because there is genuinely nothing else to do, and the 4 minutes are coming regardless. Ray glances at you. First time? First time what? First time the diner catches up to you. He flips 4 burgers in a single motion. Won't be the last. Sometimes the machine beats you. Best thing is to know you can't run faster than the machine and stop trying. The cycle ends. You pull the rack. The plates steam. Too hot to touch for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. You wait. You put on the plates, and the line continues. Nothing about this story is dramatic. That's the point. This is what most of it is. Not the dramatic moments. Those come, and we'll get there. But the space between them, which is just this. The machine runs, and you wait. And then you go again. This is going to be long. This is a good place to tell you about what the 4th of July looks like at the Blue Star. Because it is 2 weeks into your summer, and it is the first time you understand the difference between what the diner looks like from the outside and what it asks of you on the inside. 4th of July, 1957 is a Wednesday. Your mother is open. Your mother is always open on holidays because your mother has correctly identified that holidays are exactly when people are most willing to spend money on food they could make at home. The night before, she sits at the kitchen table after the diner closes and makes a list. Extra bread delivery. Double the pie inventory. She'll make 4 pies herself starting at 9 p.m. tonight. Extra coffee. Extra napkins. She writes it in her blue notebook with a particular precision she brings to logistics, each item with its quantity and the action required. She looks up at you across the table. "You're on the floor tomorrow," she says. "Full shift." "Okay." "And the dish?" "That's both." "Yes." She looks back at her notebook. "Linda's sick. Mary can't come in until noon." You don't argue. What would you argue toward? She knows what she's asking. She knows it's too much for a 14-year-old on a busy holiday. She's asking anyway because the alternative is asking nobody, which is not an option. "Okay," you say again. She nods, and then, quietly, "I'll get you the good apron." The good apron is a thicker weave, longer, covers more of your legs from splashes. It is a small thing. It is the thing she has to give. You take it. The morning of the 4th starts at 5 with a sky the colour of old dishwater that burns off to blue by 8. And by 9 o'clock the parking lot of the Blue Star has more cars in it than you've ever seen on a weekday. Families on their way somewhere. Families coming back from somewhere. Families who have no particular somewhere and are using the drive as the event itself because it's a holiday and because the car is new and because America in 1957 is very enthusiastic about driving as a form of leisure, as a demonstration of arrival. The diner fills quickly and stays full. By 10 o'clock you're doing something you've never done before. You're doing everything at once. You're bizzing tables and running plates and refilling coffee and answering questions about whether the pie is fresh. It is fresh. Your mother made it at midnight. It is the freshest pie in southern Ohio. Do not ask again. And every 15 minutes you sprint back to the dish station and run a cycle and sprint back out. And the entire day compresses into a sequence of single moments, each requiring your complete attention, none leaving room for the next one. Your mother is at the register and the coffee station simultaneously, moving with the efficiency of someone who has made this exact calculation before and knows exactly how much slack there is, which is none. And how fast things will come apart if you slow down, which is immediately. Patty is on the floor with you, and Patty in a full rush is something to see. She moves with the calm of a person who has decided the situation is manageable and is now simply managing it, table to table, coffee pot arcing perfectly, order pad flipping, face showing exactly as much pressure as she's decided to show, which is none. "Table 6, she says in passing. "I see it." And 8, "Got it." No full sentences, just vectors, just direction. The shorthand of people who are working the same problem from different angles. At 12:30, during the absolute worst of it, every seat full, 3 tables waiting, Ray running behind for the first time all summer, the coffee urn runs empty. This is a procedural disaster. The coffee urn holds 4 gallons, and it has run empty because the 4th of July is a day when everyone orders coffee, even the people who don't usually order coffee. And also you forgot to start the next batch when the warning light came on, because the warning light came on at exactly the moment someone dropped a fork and you were closest, and the instinct to deal with the immediate crisis overrode the procedural memory. You realise it when Patty picks up the pot and tilts it over a cup at the counter, and nothing comes out. She sets it down, looks at you. "On it," you say, already moving. New coffee in the machine, the correct amount measured by weight and not eye, because your mother trained you to do it by weight. The scale never has a bad day, she told you, which is one of the things you've heard her say that you will probably be thinking about for the rest of your life. 45 seconds to measure and load, 5 minutes to brew, 5 minutes is 5 minutes is 5 minutes. You cannot rush it. The table waiting for coffee gets water and a sincere apology, and Patty's undivided attention for 90 seconds, which is a specific skill, the 90 seconds of attention. It's coming fresh, just 2 or 3 minutes. Can I get you anything while we wait? Not as a question, as a gift, as the genuine offer of her presence as a substitute for the thing they're waiting for. And it works. It almost always works. Because what people mostly want is to feel attended to. You watch this from the coffee station while the machine runs, and you think, that's the whole thing right there. The coffee will be ready in 5 minutes. You cannot change that. What you can change is the experience of the 5 minutes. This is a thing that will be true for most of your life. August comes in hot. The Ohio summer heat is a specific kind, not dry, not the kind that at least feels clean, humid. The air holds onto the warmth from the previous day and from the day before that, and by mid-August Millhaven is living inside a damp wool coat at all times, and the Blue Star, which has no air conditioning, a window unit in the front, was ordered in the spring and never arrived, which your mother checks on every week with the distributor, and the distributor is always working on it. The Blue Star is roughly the temperature of an enthusiastic oven. The fans help. 2 ceiling fans up front, and Ray's box fan in the kitchen doorway, and the rotating fan on the shelf above the dish station that you angle toward your face every 30 minutes, and which provides approximately 11 seconds of relief before the heat closes back in. You sweat through the good apron. You sweat through the shirt under the apron. By 2 in the afternoon your hair is wet and your face is red, and there is a salt line on your forearms where the sweat has dried and re-dried. Everyone looks like this. Ray looks like this. Your mother looks like this, though she pins her hair more tightly in August so it doesn't fall. The customers sit in front of the fans and drink cold water and eat cold things. More ice cream, more cold pie, more iced tea, and they look at the ceiling fans and think warm, and they have no idea what the kitchen is. One afternoon, a woman, a regular, a Millhaven woman whose name you don't know, she comes in twice a week, always sits at the counter, always orders a salad, looks at your red face and damp shirt and says, in a voice that is not unkind, "You poor thing, you must be hot." You're standing here having run a full lunch service in a kitchen that is approximately 900 degrees, and you're about to run a cycle on the dishwasher, which will add its steam to the ambient temperature of the dish station, and you have 4 tables to clear, and the coffee needs starting, and the syrup dispenser is sticky again. "A little," you say, and smile the smile your mother has taught you. You carry your bus tray back to the station. You do not think about the woman's comment again until that night, when you're lying in your bed with the window open and the slight, grudging breeze coming through, and you think, a little. The distance between a little and a lot is not a lie exactly. It's the space between what the customer needs to know and what is actually true. The customer needs to know. It's warm back there. The staff works hard. I appreciate that. The customer does not need to know. I've been here since 6 a.m. I've been sweating since 7:30. My hands ache and my lower back aches, and I've eaten 3 bites of a sandwich at 11 o'clock that I finished cold because there was no time to eat it hot, and every time I get near the end of the dish pile it grows again, and I will be here until 9 tonight, and tomorrow it starts again. The customer doesn't need to know that. Nobody is paying them not to know it. It's just that the work is invisible, by design, by necessity, by the agreed-upon social fiction that says the table should appear set, and the food should appear served, and the coffee should appear hot, without any of the machinery being visible. You think about this, in your bed, in the August heat, and you think, this is what most of it is. Not the moment someone says thank you, not the big holiday rushes with the story you'll tell, the daily invisibility, the daily everything being exactly as it should be, meaning nobody noticed. That's the job. This is going to sound strange. The Blue Star serves food, obviously. That's the business. That's the thing the electricity bill gets paid from, and the bread delivery bill, and Ray's paycheck, and Patty's and Linda's and Mary's, and the insurance that your mother pays every quarter, and the property tax and the grease trap cleaning service that comes once a month. Though your mother stretches it to 6 weeks when things are tight, which is more often than once a month. And the new coffee urn that came in July finally and cost $240 that your mother took from the emergency fund, which now has less in it. Food. That's the function. But the function is not the purpose. The purpose, you start to understand in the summer of 1957, is more specific and stranger and harder to say out loud. The purpose of the Blue Star Diner is to be a place where nothing is required of you except to sit down and be given something, not a small thing. In 1957 in Millhaven, Ohio, there are many places where things are required of you. Church requires your belief, or at least its performance. School requires your attention, your compliance, your willingness to sit in the shape they want you in. The factory requires your body. 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours of your body doing what it needs to do in the order it needs to do it. Home, most homes, requires a version of yourself that is appropriate to home. The diner requires a few dollars and the ability to sit. Walt comes every morning not because the coffee is extraordinary, but because for 45 minutes he is required to do nothing except drink his coffee and read his paper. Nobody's asking him to be anything. Nobody expects production from him. He's been retired for 4 years and he still, every single morning, comes here to practice the particular and necessary skill of existing without justification. Dorothy Price comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because the soup and the grilled cheese don't ask her to be a widow. They're just soup and grilled cheese. They don't know what she's lost. They don't handle her carefully or avoid certain topics. They're hot and good and present, and that is enough. The young woman on Friday nights who watches the highway, you think she comes because the diner is a place that will not judge her for looking out windows. Whatever life she's living the rest of the week has requirements. Eat here, look out the window, go home. No one asks. You think about this in the slow afternoon, when the rush is done and the lunch dishes are clean, and the afternoon sits in the diner like a long exhale, golden and quiet. Just Walt at the counter now, and one couple in a booth, and Patty on her break outside with a cigarette, and you wiping down the same section of counter you've wiped 3 times already. Because the motion is good. Because the motion is a way of being present in a space without it costing you anything. This is the Blue Star Diner. A place where people come to be given something without having to earn it in the moment. Where the transaction is clean and contained, and you pay your $1.50, and you get your eggs and your coffee and your seat by the window, and nobody asks you to be more than you are. Your mother has been providing this service for 15 years. She does it at 4:15 in the morning. She does it with rough hands and swollen feet. She does it with a smile for the difficult customers and a check to the bread delivery and a note in the blue notebook about the emergency fund. She has never, to your knowledge, described it this way. She would probably say it's just a diner. You think it's something else. September 2nd, 1957. A Saturday. Late afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock. The lunch rush is fully over and the dinner crowd hasn't started. The diner is quiet. A few tables, the counter half empty, Ray having his cigarette outside the kitchen door, your mother in the back going over the week's accounts. A car pulls into the lot. It's a 1953 Chevrolet, dark green, road dusty, with a slight list that suggests a slow leak in the left rear tyre. 2 adults in the front, 2 children in the back. You can see them through the windshield as the car parks. A family. They're black. In 1957 in Mill Haven, Ohio. Not Mississippi, not Alabama, but Ohio, which is not the South and which has not had legal segregation since the 1880s. This is still a thing that happens in a specific way. Mill Haven is a small town. The Blue Stars regulars are white. This is not a policy, not a sign in the window, not anything your mother has ever stated. She has never stated it because she has never had to state it, because in 15 years this particular car has never parked in this particular lot. You watch through the window as the family gets out. The father first, checking the lot without appearing to check it. A specific kind of assessment that you will understand better when you are older, but can feel now as what it is, which is a man calculating risk. The mother next, smoothing her dress, taking the younger child's hand. The older child, a girl, maybe 10, already looking at the diner door. They walk in. The bell above the door jangles. Patty has just come back inside from her cigarette and she's nearest the door, and she turns when she hears the bell the way she always turns, and for a fraction of a second, no more, you see something cross her face. Then it's gone, and she's moving toward the family, pad in hand. "Counter or booth?" she says. Her voice is normal. The father looks at her. He's maybe 35, tall, wearing a suit jacket even in the September heat, which you understand instantly as armour, as the particular kind of care a black man in 1957 takes to leave no opening for a different kind of complaint. "Booth, please," he says. Patty takes them to the corner booth, a good booth near the window, and sets menus in front of them and goes for water, and the whole thing takes 30 seconds and is completely ordinary, and you watch it happen from the dish. Station with your hands still in the soapy water, and something is tight in your chest that you can't name yet. Nothing happens for 3 minutes. Then Bob Crenshaw at the counter, Bob Crenshaw who drives a road grader for the county, and who's been a regular at the Blue Star since before you were working here, who is not a bad man exactly, or not a man who thinks of himself as a bad man. Bob Crenshaw sets his coffee cup down with a specific kind of deliberateness. He doesn't say anything. He sets his cup down. That's all. But the setting down is communicative in a way that sets the cup down was not meant to be, in the way that small deliberate actions in small rooms are always communicative. The woman on the stool next to Bob looks at the booth, looks at her food, looks at her food again. You watch this. You watch the father in the corner booth take the menu your mother printed in 1953 on index card stock, and which has been laminated 3 times since, and which has a small crack along the bottom left corner that nothing fixes. You watch him open it with the same calm deliberateness as the suit jacket, as the assessment in the parking lot. You watch his daughter, the 10-year-old, look around the diner with the specific curiosity of a child who doesn't know yet what she should and shouldn't notice. Patty comes back with 4 waters and a smile that is her working smile, the professional one. Folks ready to order? The mother orders, the father orders, the children order, the girl wants pie, the younger one wants a grilled cheese. Normal, exactly what you'd order. Patty writes it down, goes to the pass. Ray, she says, 2 hot roast beefs, 1 grilled cheese, 1 lemon meringue. Ray is back at the grill. He doesn't look up. He starts the order. That's it. Bob Crenshaw at the counter finishes his coffee. He leaves his usual tip, 60 cents on a $1.50 check, which is his usual 40%, which is a generous regular's tip. And he leaves. He doesn't say anything. He just leaves. The woman next to him leaves 2 minutes later, and now the diner, which had 6 customers when the family walked in, has 4, and 3 of those 4 are at the other end of the counter, studiously not looking at the corner booth, and the 4th is you, who is looking because you're 14, and you have not yet learned to perform not looking convincingly. The food comes up. Patty carries it to the booth. Anything else I can get you? We're fine, thank you, the mother says. The family eats. The girl eats her grilled cheese. The younger child eats his, making the small focused sounds of a child eating something hot and good. The mother and father eat their roast beef, and they talk in low voices, and once the father says something that makes the mother laugh, a real laugh, short and quiet, and you stand at the dish station, and you watch this family eat their food in the corner booth, and you are aware of something enormous and something ordinary happening simultaneously, and you don't have the vocabulary for it, and you don't need it, and the vocabulary wouldn't help anyway. They finish. They order a slice of pie to split. Apple, not lemon meringue. The girl is disappointed but accepts it with grace. And they eat the pie and they pay and they leave a good tip, $1 on a $7 check, which is generous, which is the particular generosity of people who know the arithmetic of being seen and who pay it forward anyway. The bell above the door jangles when they leave. Patty clears the table. She moves with her usual efficiency. She brings the dishes back to the station, sets them in the rack, and she doesn't say anything, and you don't say anything. And for a minute there is just the sound of the water running and the dishwasher humming. Then Patty says, "You going to wash those or just look at them?" "Washing them," you say. You wash the dishes. The dishes are the same as the other dishes. They wash the same, dry the same, stack the same. You bring up the question that night at the kitchen table. Your mother is at the accounts. She looks up when you start talking and she listens, and when you finish, she's quiet for a moment. "Bob left," you say, and the woman next to him. "I know. Because of the family in the corner booth." "Probably." "Are you going to—" You stop. You don't know how to finish the sentence. Are you going to do something? Are you going to have a policy? Are you going to say something to Bob Crenshaw next time he comes in? Your mother sets down her pen. You know what the sign over the door says? The sign over the door inside says, "Blue Star Diner. All welcome." She put it up in 1943. She's never taken it down. "All welcome," you say. She picks up her pen and goes back to the accounts. That's it. That's the whole policy. 2 words. 1943 still on the wall. You think about this in bed that night. You think about the father's suit jacket, the particular armour of it. You think about the girl and the pie and the way she accepted the apple instead of the lemon meringue with a grace that was not resignation, but choice. The very particular grace of a child who's been taught how to move through spaces that don't entirely welcome you. You think, What does it cost to eat a grilled cheese in a diner in Ohio in 1957 when you are black? Not in dollars, in weight, in what you carry in what you carry back out. The food was the same, the service was the same, Patty's voice was the same, and still. You lie awake for a long time in the August heat that is still here in the first week of September, and you think about what all welcome means in practice versus in principle, and you think about Bob Crenshaw's 60-cent tip, and the 2 words on the wall, and your mother at the accounts, and you don't reach any conclusions except this. The Blue Star did the right thing. It did the ordinary right thing, fed a family their food, let them eat in the corner booth, wash their dishes with the other dishes, and that ordinary right thing cost something. 2 regulars leaving early. Whatever those regulars said to their regulars, whatever accumulated small erosion results from doing the ordinary right thing in a town that does not always expect it. Your mother knows this. She went back to the accounts. October. The summer is over and you're back in school. Full days now, the diner only in the afternoons and weekends. The rhythm shifts. Wake up, school, homework on the bus, arrive at the diner at 3:30, apron until 7, homework after, bed. You're tired constantly. Not the dramatic exhaustion of a person suffering. The dull, structural tiredness of a person doing more than a person your age should have to do, and doing it without the option to stop because stopping is not available, and because someone else is also tired and that person is your mother and she does not stop, so you don't stop. October is apple pie season, which means your mother is making more pie and working later into the evenings. The kitchen after 10 o'clock smells of cinnamon and warm apples and the particular sweetness of the butter in the crust. And this smell, more than any other smell, is the smell of your childhood, the smell that will for the rest of your life produce a feeling you can't categorize. Comfort, but also effort. Safety, but also cost. Your mother makes pie, the way Ray cooks, without appearing to hurry, but at a pace that a casual observer might mistake for hurrying. She works the crust with her hands. She doesn't use a pastry cutter. She uses her hands, because the crust needs to stay cold and her hands run cold, which she once told you was good for baking and bad for everything else. And she rolls it on the floured board and she doesn't measure the filling exactly. She tastes it, which is how she learned and how she knows. You sit at the kitchen table and do homework while she works, and sometimes she talks and sometimes she doesn't. One night in late October she says, without preamble, while rolling the second crust, "Mr. Hendricks from the bank came by today." Mr. Hendricks from the bank. You know what this means the way you know the specific creak of the third stair. About the note, you say. About the note. The note on the diner property is what stands between the Blue Star and your family. It is a number. You know the rough shape of it, not the exact figure. Your mother doesn't share the exact figure, but the rough shape is visible in the way the accounts look on bad weeks. The note renews each year. Each year your mother pays what she can, adds whatever the year has produced that exceeds the operating costs, and Mr. Hendricks nods and says things that are reassuring in their content and professional in their distance. Mr. Hendricks from the bank came by today. Is it all right? You ask. Your mother finishes the crust. She lays it over the dish and crimps the edges, with her thumb, the way she always does, even and precise. Then she looks at you. We're current, she says. We're fine. And then, which she does not usually do, she adds, if this autumn goes well, if this autumn goes well, if the apple pie draws people in, if the weather holds, if the regulars stay regular, if the highway keeps sending enough of its passing strangers through the door, if the coffee urn doesn't break again, if the walk-in cooler's left side warms up any further, already the temperature differential between left and right is getting worse. You'll lose produce and have to replace it, and produce loss in autumn is a margin problem. If. You look at your mother. She's rolling out the third crust. Her hands move and the crust extends, and the kitchen smells of cinnamon and apples, and the blue notebook sits on the corner of the table with its columns of numbers that you're not supposed to see, but which you can read upside down and which tell a story that is either fine or not fine, depending on whether autumn goes well. I'll do extra shifts, you say. She looks at you. You have school. Weekends then, and some evenings. A pause. Okay, she says. Weekends. And then she goes back to the crust. This is the Blue Star Diner in October of 1957. This is a woman and her 14-year-old son at a kitchen table at 11 o'clock at night, negotiating the survival of a thing they built and are building, and will keep building for as long as it is possible to keep building it. This is the thing the customers don't see, sitting in their booths. This is the machinery beneath the warm ceiling fans and the cinnamon-smelling pie and the full coffee cup and the clean counter. All welcome 4:15 every morning, November. The cold comes suddenly to Ohio in November, which is its habit. Not gradually, not the slow cool of September and October's pleasant mornings, but a hard turn, a week where the temperature drops 20 degrees and stays there, and all at once the diner changes. The windows fog. Not the pleasant fog of autumn, but the permanent fog of winter beginning, the inside of the glass weeping with condensation that you wipe down every morning and which returns by noon. The walk-in cooler, whose temperature differential has been getting worse since August, now has a new problem. The right side, which has always been too cold, is producing ice crystals along the back wall, which means something in the compressor is going wrong, which means your mother is on the phone with the refrigeration repairman, whose name is Artie, and Artie's schedule is full for 3 weeks. 3 weeks without the walk-in cooler running properly. 3 weeks of managing the inventory more carefully, checking everything twice, shifting the produce away from the problem zones, losing some things anyway. The lettuce goes limp fastest, then the tomatoes, and you throw out a quantity of both in the second week that makes your mother's jaw tighten in a way you've learned to read. The heat costs money too. The oil furnace that heats the diner is from 1944 and has been serviced twice since then, and runs on what might charitably be described as stubbornness, and whatever Artie did to it in 1952. Your mother checks the thermostat every hour against the temperature outside and adjusts accordingly, and on cold nights she turns it down to 62 after close, which is just warm enough to keep the pipes from freezing, and cold enough that the first customer through the door at 5:30 in the morning can see their breath, until about 6:15. You learn to work in the cold. You learn the specific cold of early November mornings. The dishwater warming your hands for 30 seconds, and then the air between dishes cooling them back down, alternating warmth and cold through the whole shift, your hands perpetually confused about their temperature. You learn the cold of the kitchen before the grill heats up, when Ray is still doing prep, and the range is just starting, and the building is all cold corners and breath vapour. Ray, in the cold, is the same as Ray in the heat. This seems remarkable to you. Temperature is not something Ray registers as information that affects his behaviour. He works the same in November as in July. He doesn't wear more layers. He doesn't complain. You ask him about this once. You're never cold when you're working, he says, without looking up. You're only cold when you stop. This turns out to be true. This turns out to be true about a lot of things. December. The diner is decorated for Christmas. This is a thing your mother does every year. A string of lights along the front window, a wreath on the door, a small tree on the end of the counter near the cash register. It is modest, correct, proportional to the Blue Star scale. Not trying to be more than it is, but dressed appropriately for the occasion. The Christmas decorating happens on the first Sunday of December before church, while the diner is still closed. Your mother and you, 2 hours before anything else, putting up the lights with the same systematic efficiency she brings to everything. This is not a tradition that is talked about as a tradition. It is just the thing that happens on the first Sunday of December. You get out the box from the storage room, you untangle the lights. They are always tangled every year, despite being put away carefully every January. Your mother holds the ladder while you reach the high places. You drink instant coffee from paper cups because the real machine isn't running yet. The lights go up. The wreath goes on the door. The tree goes on the counter. Good, your mother says. Good, you agree. And then the diner opens. The Christmas regulars are the regular regulars mostly, but amplified slightly. Walt comes in wearing a red tie, which is the only evidence you'll ever get that Walt owns a red tie or has feelings about Christmas. Dorothy Price brings her soup and grilled cheese, but the soup is now the special, cream of tomato, which your mother starts making in December, and Dorothy eats it with the particular attention of someone who is eating something that matters. The travellers in December are different, less the casual stopping for fuel variety, more the going home for the holiday variety. Families in big cars with luggage and the specific energy of people travelling towards something rather than away from something. Children pressed against the windows. Parents with the slightly over-caffeinated alertness of a long drive with 4 hours still to go. You watch them come in and order and eat and go back to their cars, and you think about going home. About what it would mean to be going home. You are home. This diner, this building, the 2 rooms above it where you and your mother live. And that is an unusual fact to be at 14, to be already home and not going somewhere. Walt catches you watching one of the travelling families one afternoon. He's on his usual stool and he sets his paper down and looks at you. You thinking about going somewhere? You shrug. Sometimes. He nods. He looks at the family. 4 kids. Dad paying at the register, Mom herding the kids toward the door. Those people, he says, they're going home. That's a good thing. But you know what they think about when they drive past the Blue Star next time? What? Nothing. It's just a diner they stopped at. A pause. The fact that it's your diner, that they could stop here, that it was open, that the coffee was hot and the food came out right, that means something to them, even if they don't know it means something. The fact that you were here means something. He picks up his paper. Just because you're in one place doesn't mean nothing's happening. He goes back to the sports section. Walt gives you a piece of wisdom every few weeks, delivered without preamble, folded into the newspaper routine like it's just part of reading the paper. You have started collecting them. You don't write them down, there's no notebook for this, but they accumulate in you the way things accumulate in a building, in the walls, in the structure, part of what makes the thing stand up. The night the highway sends something different. December the 13th, 1957, a Friday. You know the date because you know the day. 2 weeks before Christmas, your mother had just taken delivery of an extra case of canned tomatoes for the soup, and you know the date because you will remember it. It's 9:30 at night. The diner closes at 10. You're mopping the floor near the door. Ray has cleaned the grill and gone home. Patty has gone home. Your mother is counting the register. The diner is empty. Then the sound. Not the sound of a car pulling in, which has its own rhythm, the crunch of gravel, the engine winding down, the car door sound. This is a different sound. Tyres on gravel, yes, but wrong. Too fast, then stopping too suddenly, then nothing. Then a sound you don't identify until your mother is already at the door, which is the sound of a car door opening and a person falling. The sound a person makes when they're not walking out of a car but being helped out, or falling out. Your mother has the front door open before you reach it. In the parking lot, a car, a 54 Ford, one headlight still on, the other dark, angled in off the road, parked badly, the engine still running. A man standing next to the passenger side trying to hold up a woman, and neither of them succeeding very well, the woman's weight pulling him sideways, her head forward. Your mother is down the steps before you clear the door. What happened? She's already at the woman's other side. I don't know, the man is maybe 50, big, visibly shaking. She was fine, and then she wasn't, I couldn't keep driving. Is she conscious? I think so. Eddie, your mother says without looking at you, hold the door. You hold the door. They bring the woman in. She's conscious. She's talking fragments, not making complete sense. Her words slightly wrong in the way of a person whose brain is doing something it shouldn't be doing. She's around 60, dressed for travel, and her face is grey in a way that is unmistakably medical grey. The grey of a person whose body is working very hard on something internal and not managing the surface well. Your mother gets her to the back booth, the widest, most private one, and lays her across it and takes her pulse and looks at the man. How long has she been like this? 20 minutes, maybe 30. He runs his hand over his face. We were 30 miles from Millhaven and she started. You should have stopped then. I know. His voice breaks. Just slightly, but it breaks. I panicked. I kept thinking I should just get to the hospital. The hospital is 8 miles, your mother says. But first. She's already at the phone behind the counter. Your mother, who does not have a medical degree, who has a 9th grade education from Millhaven Public School, 1933, who has been running a diner for 15 years, dials the operator. Operator, this is Helen Kowalski at the Blue Star Diner on Route 9. I have a woman here who I think may be having a stroke or a cardiac event. I need an ambulance. She listens. Yes, Route 9, just past the Sunoco, you'll see the blue neon. Thank you. She hangs up, goes back to the booth. Name? She asks the man. Margaret. Her name is Margaret. We're going to my daughter's for Christmas. Tell Margaret her name and where she's going, your mother says. Keep talking to her. Do not stop talking to her. She looks at you. Get the blanket from the storage room. The blanket from the storage room is a flannel thing your mother keeps for. You have wondered for years what she keeps it for. Apparently for this. You get it. You bring it back and your mother tucks it around the woman, around Margaret, and then she stands back and lets the man talk to his wife, which is what needs to happen now. Your mother comes to stand beside you. Watch the door, she says. When you see lights on the highway slowing down, go out and wave them in. The ambulance? Yes. You go and stand at the door. The diner is very quiet. The ceiling fans turn. The Christmas lights on the window cycle through their small sequence. The man in the back booth talks to his wife. Margaret, we're going to Karen's, remember? Karen's place. It'll be fine. It's going to be fine. In a voice that is making promises he doesn't know if he can keep. Your mother is behind the counter, very still, not anxious, concentrated. You watch the highway. 8 minutes. The ambulance comes at 9:40, and you're outside waving before the lights even fully slow, and they pull in, and the two men come out with practice speed, and you hold the door and they come through and go to the back booth, and the next 7 minutes are compact and professional. And then Margaret is on the stretcher, and in the ambulance, and her husband is climbing in behind her. He stops at the door of the ambulance, looks back. Your mother is standing at the diner entrance. Thank you, he says. It's not enough. He knows it's not enough. He says it anyway. Call the hospital from your daughters, your mother says, and call Karen now so she knows. The ambulance leaves. The parking lot is quiet. Your mother stands there for a moment in the December cold, in her uniform, and you stand next to her. Then she turns and goes inside, picks up the mop you dropped, finishes the section of floor she had asked you to mop. Close up the register, she says. You close up the register. She finishes mopping. You collect the chairs onto the tables. This is the last part of closing, upending the chairs so the overnight cleaning is easier. And the two of you work in silence, the Christmas lights cycling. And when it's done, your mother turns off the main lights and leaves the tree on, which she always does, which is the small extravagance of December. Is she going to be okay, you ask? Your mother is quiet for a moment. I don't know, she says. I hope so. That's it. That's what there is. You either know or you don't know, and when you don't know, you say so, and you do what you can with what you have and you hope. This is also what the blue star is. This is also who your mother is. You go upstairs. January 1958 arrives with a week of ice. The parking lot freezes. The pipes in the back bathroom freeze once. Just once. Oversight in the deepest cold, and your mother catches it before they burst, draping towels and running the small space heater against the wall behind the vanity, which is not the correct solution, but is the available solution. The road ice is over and the morning regulars are sparse. Walt still comes. Walt would come in a blizzard. You're increasingly convinced that nothing will stop Walt. But the lunch rush is half what it should be, and the highway traffic is slow and cautious, and mostly doesn't stop. The January numbers, when your mother does them at the kitchen table on the last Sunday of the month, are what they are. She closes the notebook and makes a cup of tea and sits at the table. You sit across from her. Are we okay, you ask? She wraps her hands around the teacup. Her hands are rough and slightly swollen at the knuckles, and the teacup is white with a small blue stripe around the rim, and she looks at you with the particular look she gets when she's deciding how honest to be. We're okay, she says. If spring is good, you say. She looks at you. She looks at you for a long moment. When did you get so old, she says. Not how, which is a question that has answers. When, which is the real question, which doesn't have a single answer, but has an accumulation of them. The milk crate, the dish station, the good apron, the bus tray, the September family in the corner booth, the December ambulance man's broken voice, the October walk-in cooler ice crystals, the September accounts, all the 4:15 mornings you were awake early enough to hear the particular sound of your mother moving through the dark kitchen, already working, already going. I don't know, you say honestly. She drinks her tea. You drink yours. Outside, the January ice sits on Route 9, and the highway is quiet, and the Blue Star Diner sits in it with its dark neon and its Christmas tree still on. She doesn't take it down until February. She always says January is too soon, which is the one non-practical decision she makes all year. And the building sits on its old concrete pad and holds its pipes against the cold and waits, the way it has always waited for morning. Spring comes in March, which is late for Ohio, but still comes, and with it the particular relief that belongs to businesses that survive their winters. More cars on Route 9, more people stopping, more coffee being poured, and more eggs being cooked, and more pie going out of the glass case. The walk-in cooler gets fixed in March when Artie's schedule finally clears. $212. Your mother writes the check without flinching, which means she was prepared for it, which means the March numbers are better than January. You're 14 3/4 and you're taller than you were in June, and your hands are different in ways that are permanent now, and you have been at the dish station enough times that the motion is in your muscle memory in the specific way that things learned young stay. Your body knows the angles, the timing, the weight of a full rack, the sound the machine makes when it's running right versus when it's running just slightly wrong. You know the diner the way you know your own breath. One afternoon in March, a slow Wednesday, your mother asks you to run the register while she's in the back. You do this. You've done it before. A man comes in, a stranger, a traveller, a Route 9 person, and he orders the blue plate and coffee and pie, and you take his order and call it back to Ray and pour his coffee, and he eats his food, and he pays, and you make change from the register, and the whole transaction takes 12 minutes and is completely routine. Except that at the end, when I hand him his change, he says, "That was real good coffee, thank you." And you say, "Thank you, come back again." And he leaves, and you stand at the register, and you realise that's you. That's you doing the thing. Not your mother, not Patty, you. The coffee was real because you made it real. The thank you was real because you meant it. The whole transaction was a version of what your mother has been doing for 15 years, and you did it, and it was exactly right. Ray is watching from the pass-through. He looks back at the grill without saying anything, but there's a nod, a very small one, the kind that means, that's it, that's what it is. You're learning what it is. Let me tell you about the roof. The Blue Star has a flat roof, technically 2 small gabled sections at the front, but mostly flat. And there is a ladder in the storage room that leads to a hatch in the ceiling that leads to the roof. This hatch exists because in the summer of 1952, the furnace exhaust pipe needed work and the repairman needed roof access. And afterwards the hatch stayed because your mother is not a person who removes access to things without a reason. Nobody goes up there. There's no reason to. You go up there for the first time in April of 1958, on a Sunday evening after close, because you have been in the diner, or in school, or in the 12-foot radius of the diner for 8 straight days, and you need to be somewhere that isn't one of those things, and the roof is technically outside and technically elevated and technically both of these. The ladder is aluminum and cold. The hatch is stiff with disuse. You push it open and climb out into April air. Cool, with a slight smell of thaw and earth, and the particular freshness that Ohio gets in April before everything warms up. The roof is rough-surfaced, tar and gravel, still holding a little of the day's heat. You stand up straight. And there it is, Route 9 in both directions. The highway lights, not many this far from town, but enough. Small yellow pools in the blue-grey dusk. Cars moving in both directions, their headlights white and their taillights red, moving away and moving toward in that constant flow that the highway maintains regardless of what time it is or what season. In the other direction, Millhaven, the water tower, the Methodist church steeple lit from below, the Sunoco sign, the dark shapes of houses and the lit windows of houses and the faint glow of the town against the sky. You stand on the flat roof of the Blue Star Diner and you look at all of this. This is your world. Not the world in the magazines, not the tail-finned American dream world of the television commercials, not the world of boys at your school, whose fathers have not left, whose mothers do not get up at 4:15, who do not know the weight of a bus tray or the sound the dishwasher makes when the hot water is running low. This world, this specific patch of Ohio, this highway moving through it, this building beneath your feet, with its cracked counter stools and its buzzing neon and its stained ceiling tiles, and its Christmas tree that goes up in December and comes down in February, and its storage room with a blanket that turns out to be for medical emergencies. This diner that your grandmother crossed an ocean for, and your mother gets up before dawn for, and your father left, and that you have been learning the language of for 2 years. You think about what Walt said. The fact that you're in one place doesn't mean nothing's happening. Below you, through the floorboards, you can hear the faint sound of your mother finishing the nightly clean, the particular scrape of a stool being pushed back, the sound of the cash register drawer sliding closed, the small clank of the coffee urn lid going back on. 4:15 in the morning, every morning. The cars on Route 9 pass below you and keep going. They carry people who will not remember this diner. They carry people going somewhere. They carry their tail lights into the dark, diminishing, gone. You are here. You are 14, almost 15, and you are here, which is not where the magazine promises you would want to be, and which is nonetheless the specific place where everything that has formed you has happened. The highway goes somewhere. You know that. You will probably take it someday. You're not your father. You understand this already at 14, in ways that will become clearer over years. You will not confuse the dream of building something with the inconvenience of actually building it. But that's later. That's the highway. Right now, tonight, the roof. Below you, the sound of the door, the sound of your mother locking up, the particular sequence of bolt and deadlock she does every night. Then her steps on the stairs up to the apartment above. She doesn't know you're here. She will see the hatch ajar in the morning and figure it out and say nothing. You stay on the roof for another 20 minutes. The April night settles around you. The cars keep moving on Route 9. The town's glow holds against the sky. You're here. That's enough. That's all. That's also everything. May 1958. The spring is good. The numbers in May are the best since the summer you started. Not that you have access to the exact figures, but you can read the blue notebook upside down, and you can read the slightly different way your mother carries herself when the accounts close properly. Something infinitesimally lighter about the set of her shoulders on the last Sunday of the month. The walk-in cooler is running well. The coffee urn from July is still running well. Ray's grill is running well. The buzzing neon sign out front, the open 24 hours one, has stopped buzzing, because in April your mother finally paid someone to look at it, and it turned out to be a loose connection, a 10-minute fix, $3, and now it hums cleanly and throws its blue light on the parking lot in a steady, even glow that you find unexpectedly beautiful. You didn't know you thought the sign was beautiful until it stopped buzzing, until the buzz was gone and what was left was just the light. That's how you find out what you think sometimes, by absence. The spring regulars come back. Walt never left, but the less committed regulars who trail off in winter return in May. The Henderson brothers, a few new faces. Route 9 brings new faces every season. People relocated to the area, people whose circuits have changed. A young man starts coming in on Tuesday evenings, maybe 20, 22. He sits at the counter and orders coffee and whatever pie is left from the day, and he has a drafting notebook with him that he works in while he eats. You can see the drawings from your position at the dish station pass through. Technical drawings, precise lines, the kind that take instruments to make right. One Tuesday you're refilling the sugar caddies and you pass close to where he's working and you see it's a building. Or a bridge, maybe. The structural elements are the part he's working on right now, the load-bearing columns, the way they distribute weight. He sees you looking. He doesn't close the notebook. Architecture, he says, or engineering. I haven't decided which. What's the difference? He considers this. Engineering tells you if it stands up. Architecture tells you if it's worth looking at. A pause. The good ones are both. He goes back to his notebook. You go back to the sugar caddies. But you think about this later. The good ones are both. The thing that works and the thing worth looking at. The thing that is exactly what it needs to be, structurally, and also more than that, also something, a presence, a quality, a specific rightness in the world. You look around the Blue Star, stained ceiling tiles, cracked counter stools, the 2-degree list, the sticky syrup dispenser, the window painted shut. Also, Walt's paper set at the end of the counter every morning. Dorothy's 20% tip calculated to the penny. The good apron, the blanket in the storage room, the December tree in February, the all-welcome sign. Also, your mother. 4:15. The check to the bread delivery and the check to the gas range and the check to Ray and Patty and Linda and Mary every week. The employees paid first, always, which is the one money rule your mother has stated out loud. Is the Blue Star worth looking at? You think, yes. Not in the way the buildings on the architectural drawings are worth looking at. Not in the way that gets written down, but in the way that matters to the people who need it, which is the other way, which might be the more important way, which nobody puts in the magazines. Summer again. June 1958. You're 15 now, just turned, in May, and you're taller than your mother, and almost as tall as Ray, and your hands know the dish station and the griddle and the bus station and the register, and the coffee urn and the walk-in cooler and the mop and the order pad, and every regular's usual order, and the sound every piece of equipment in the Blue Star makes when it's running right, and the different sound it makes when it isn't. You know this place the way you know your own body. This summer, for the first time, your mother gives you closing duties. Closing duties means last tables cleared, floor mopped, grill cleaned, counters wiped, dishes done, refrigerator checked, coffee prepped for morning, register counted, doors locked. The whole sequence start to finish without supervision. She is upstairs. If you need her, you can knock on the ceiling with the mop handle. This is the system, and she will come down. You do not knock on the ceiling. The first night you close alone, it takes you 1 hour and 40 minutes. The second night, 1 hour and 20. By the end of June, you're doing it in 50 minutes, which is close to your mother's time. There is a specific feeling at the end of a close, when you've done the last thing and the diner is ready for morning and you stand in the middle of the floor and look at it. the chairs upended on tables, the counters gleaming under the night lights, the coffee urn prepped and waiting, the register closed and counted, the blue star at rest. You did that. It's ready because you made it ready. You turn off the main lights and leave the neon on, the open 24-hour sign which no longer buzzes, which just glows steadily blue into the parking lot, and you go upstairs. The blue star will be here in the morning. The coffee will be ready at 4:15. The first customer will come through the door at 5:30, just as the sky goes from black to the particular grey that means dawn is beginning and the day has decided to happen again. Late summer, 1958. August, a Thursday, slow afternoon. You're behind the counter because Patty has the afternoon off for a doctor's appointment and your mother is taking a rare 2 hours to herself. Upstairs, the sound of the radio, which she almost never turns on during working hours, which means she is genuinely resting. The afternoon sun comes through the long front window at a low angle and lights the counter in stripes, gold between the shadows of the window frames. And the diner is empty except for Walt, who comes in every single day, today reading the Gazette with the particular patience of a man who is reading not for news, but for the ritual of reading. You pour yourself a cup of coffee. This is something you did not do your first summer or your second summer. Coffee was for customers and your mother and Ray and the staff. But at some point in the last year, without announcement, you started pouring yourself a cup in the slow afternoon. Your mother has seen you do it and said nothing. You take the cup and you lean against the counter, not sitting, not exactly, but resting your weight against it. And you drink the coffee and you look at the diner. The stained ceiling tiles which need replacing and which are going to get replaced this fall. Finally, your mother made the call last week. The counter stools, cracked vinyl which need recovering, the pass-through window, the small bell, the shelf above it where Ray keeps his coffee and his Marlboros, the booths with their red vinyl, slightly worn on the seat edges where years of people have gotten in and out, the Christmas lights coiled in their box on the shelf above the pie case waiting for December, the all-welcome sign, the windows clean. You did those yesterday morning, which is a window cleaning day. Walt, second stool from the left. The Folgers coffee in your cup, hot and slightly bitter and exactly what it is. You've been behind this counter, in one form or another, for 3 years. 3 years of 4:15 mornings. Not yours, but audible, part of the texture of your sleep. 3 years of dishwater and grease burns and bus trays and cold November floors and summer heat and the specific ache of a long service that doesn't stop while your body wants to. 3 years of watching your mother hold this thing together with the particular quiet heroism of a person who doesn't call it heroism, who calls it the diner, who gets up and does it, and gets up and does it because the alternative is not getting up. And that is not an option she has given herself. You think about your father sometimes, less than you used to, not with the anger you expected to feel when you were 12 and he left. The anger was there, it was real, it was hot in your chest for months. But something replaced it, gradually. The way one thing always gradually replaces another if you're patient enough to let it. Not forgiveness. Exactly. Something more precise than that. Understanding, maybe. The understanding that your father believed in something, in the return on effort, in the universe's accounting. And that belief was not enough. Because belief in the idea is different from the capacity to be in it every day. To be at the dish station in July. To be at the register when Caldwell gives you the looking over. To be the person who gets the blanket from the storage room. Your father could not be those things. Your mother can. You are learning whether you can. Walt sets his paper down. He does this with the end of reading deliberateness that means he's finished, which means he'll leave in about 5 minutes. He looks at you. You're thinking hard, he says. A little. About what? You look around the diner. At the ceiling tiles and the counter stools and the all welcome sign and the Christmas lights in their box. About whether this is worth it, you say. And then, because that sounds wrong, the diner, not, I know what you mean, Walt says. He picks up his coffee cup, holds it. Let me tell you something, kid. I worked at that mill for 30 years, and you know what it was? Work. Good work. Honest work. Work I wasn't ashamed of. But just work. He turns the cup slightly. This place, what your mother does here, that's different. How? Because people need it. A pause. I don't mean they need the eggs. I mean they need the this. The being somewhere. The being given something. He sets the cup down. When my wife died, I came here every day for 3 months. Every single morning. And your mother put the coffee in front of me and didn't say anything and didn't not say anything. She just was here. This place was here. He stands up, leaves his 60 cents. So yeah, he says, it's worth it. He puts on his hat, tucks the folded paper under his arm. See you tomorrow, kid. He goes through the door. The bell jangles. The door closes. You finish your coffee. Outside, Route 9 runs its steady current of cars. The August light comes through the windows at that low golden angle, striped between the frames. The Blue Star diner hums, the refrigeration unit, the ceiling fans, the faint residue of the coffee urn. All the small sounds of a place doing what it does, constant and unremarkable, the sound of operational life. You put your coffee cup in the dish rack. You start wiping down the counter. The afternoon isn't over. There are more customers coming. There are always more customers coming, as long as the sign is on and the door is open. The dinner rush will start at 5, and it will need coffee prepped, and pies checked, and tables clean, and the dish station ready. 4:15 tomorrow morning. All over again. You wipe the counter from one end to the other. Clean surface behind you, clean surface ahead. The motion is good. The motion is a way of being present. Now let me tell you about the end of summer. Not the end of the Blue Star. The Blue Star does not end. Or not yet. Not in this story. The Blue Star is still there. Or a version of it is. If you drove Route 9 today, you would find something on that corner, some kind of building or lot, the ghost of it. But the end of this particular summer, this particular chapter of it, August gives way to September with its specific Ohio sharpness. The first morning you come down and the air through the dish station window is actually cold. Not the false cool of an August night, but genuinely cold. The kind that means something has changed. You stand at the dish station window and breathe it. The fall is in the air. The fall means school again, means shorter shifts, means your mother stretching to cover the hours you're not there, but also means the pie season, means the diner decorated for October with the small cornstalk she puts in the windows, then November, then December, and the lights and the tree. Means another year. Means you're almost 16. Means 3 years now, almost 4, behind this counter. Learning the language. Getting fluent. You turn on the hot water. The steam comes up from the sink. You think, most of it is this. The water and the steam and the morning and the pile of dishes from last night. And the knowledge that more will come today and the knowledge that you will be here for them. You think, that man whose wife Margaret maybe had a stroke in your parking lot in December, you found out in January through your mother, through a phone call she did not share with you, but which left her quieter than usual for an evening. Margaret was all right. Some residual weakness on the left side, but they were going to spend Christmas at Karen's, and Margaret was going to be all right. Your mother said, when she told you, "Good. That was it. That was enough." The Blue Star did what it could with what it had in the moment it was needed, and Margaret was going to be all right. And your mother wrote it in the blue notebook. Probably. Somewhere between the expense column and the inventory notes, probably. Or maybe just carried it in the same place she carries everything. Forward. Into the next morning. Into the next service. Into the next cup of coffee. Put in front of the next person who needs it. You load the rack, you start the machine. The dishwasher runs its cycle. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The steam will come when you open it. You know this. You are ready for it. The Blue Star Diner, Route 9, Millhaven, Ohio. You're almost 16 years old, and you've been here for 3 years, and you know this place in your bones and in your hands, and in the calluses of your forearms, and in the way you carry a bus tray, and the way you can tell from the sound of the grill whether Ray is having a good morning or a difficult one. You're becoming something that is partially this place. You will carry it with you wherever you go. The particular education of early mornings and rough hands and watching your mother smile at the difficult customers. The particular knowledge of what it takes to make something warm and ordinary and present every single day for the people who need somewhere to be. You're almost 16. The machine clicks off. You pull the rack. The dishes steam. You wait. Close your eyes. You can still feel the heat from the rack if you hold your hands close enough. The clean white steam of it. The dishes cooling by degrees in the October air that come through the cracked window. Damp and slightly fallen leaves scented. The first real cold of the season. You're here. The Blue Star. Late afternoon. The hum is still happening. The refrigerator unit. The ceiling fans on their last slow rotation before your mother turns them down for fall. The particular sound of the building itself. Wood and concrete and 15 years of 4:15 mornings. 15 years of meals made and served and cleared and washed. The sounds of the kitchen. Ray's last scrape of the grill. The tick of the range cooling, the coffee urn finished for the day, the sounds of the front, Patty's voice, low, talking to the last customer of the afternoon, the slight scrape of a stool, the clink of a cup set in a saucer. Walt's paper folded on the end of the counter, Dorothy Price's 20% tip, calculated to the penny. The girl who watches the highway through the window, the all-welcome sign. Let those things settle. You've been in the dish steam, and the July heat, and the November cold, and the December ambulance lights, and the April roof, and the September corner booth, and the October kitchen where the pie is being made at 11 o'clock at night. You've been in the specific weight of a bus tray full of dirty plates, in the ache of your hands at the end of a full service, in the particular roughness of the dish station counter under your palms, worn smooth in some places and rough in others, the record of all the days before this one. You've been in all of it. The sounds are slowing. The Blue Star is winding down toward close. Your mother is somewhere in the back checking the inventory, making her note in the blue notebook. The last customer has gone. The neon sign outside is beginning to do its evening thing. Not buzzing anymore, not since April, just glowing. The clean, steady blue of it on the parking lot asphalt, on the hoods of the few remaining cars. Open 24 hours. The highway still moving. It's always moving. The taillights of the last few evening cars diminishing into the eastern dark. the headlights of the westbound ones moving toward. Something is always moving, and something is always still. This diner will be here tomorrow. The coffee will be ready at 4:15. The first customer will come through the door in the dark of early morning, and your mother will be at the counter, and the coffee will be hot, and the light will be on. This is what holds things together, not glamour, not headlines, not tail fins and magazine promises. This, someone getting up before dawn, someone making the coffee ready, someone putting "all welcome" on the wall in 1943 and not taking it down, someone with rough hands and swollen knuckles holding the thread of an ordinary day. A lot of things have changed. A lot more are going to change. The 50s are almost over. The 60s are coming with everything the 60s will bring. And they will bring plenty. They will bring the full American convulsion, and Route 9 will carry all of it through Millhaven in one form or another. But in those years, and after those years, and for a long time after that, somewhere on some highway, there will be a diner. It will smell of coffee and grease, and the particular human warmth of people being alive together in a small space. Someone will pour your coffee before you ask. Someone will know your order before you say it. Someone got up before 4:15 to make sure you could sit down. Most of what holds the world together is invisible. Most of what holds the world together wears a blue and white uniform and has rough hands and keeps a blanket in the storage room for emergencies. Most of what holds the world together doesn't call itself heroic. It just opens at 5:30 every morning, because the alternative is not opening, and that is not an option. You're warm enough now, fed enough, rested enough. You have the coffee smell in your nose and the hum of the diner in your ears and the weight of the day settling from your hands. Let it settle. Let the sounds fade the way they fade at the end of a shift. One thing at a time, the grill first, then the fans, then the chatter of the room, then the last voices, then just the building, just the small sounds of the building being what it is. Somewhere on a highway, the taillights are getting smaller. Somewhere in a kitchen, a woman is making her note in a blue notebook. Somewhere in a storage room, a blanket is folded and waiting. Somewhere a sign says, "All welcome. Let it be enough. It is enough. It has always been enough. You've earned your rest. Take it, and dream of whatever dreams may come. Good night."